Now, I wasn't just crook last week because it was COVID again and my family had stacks on, so I had to isolate for a few days. And I was in an apartment with no Foxtel or Netflix, so it was free-to-air telly is all I had. And I followed the budget and other political yarns on free-to-air TV. And my God, weren't most Australians spun a load of nonsense last week? I mean, for starters, let's knock on the head this line that Labor's delivered a surplus. I mean, first, let's see the result in September. Second, if the budget this year does end up back in the black, that's good luck for Labor and good luck for this country. But it's got nothing to do with Labor's budget policies. It's got more to do with the final coalition budget last March. Delivering a budget surplus is when you take decisions to cut spending or boost growth and you show how they're going to generate a surplus and then you do it. This was just dumb luck, as demonstrated by the fact that Labor's not even budgeting for a surplus next year. And it took Phil Curry in the Australian Financial Review to point out there was a little accounting rule change that delivered this surplus. If the same methodology used to produce Labor's $4 billion surplus was applied to earlier budgets, the coalition's final pre-pandemic budget would have seen a $7 billion surplus. So, look, let's welcome the cash, but let's not get too carried away. The real worry is how Labor just plans to keep increasing spending, increasing taxes, and tempting the nation's fate with inflation, interest rates, and low productivity. One of the big stories of the budget that just about everyone ignores is what's really happening in energy. As you know, it's the push for net zero, the switch to renewable energy that's forcing up electricity prices to crisis levels, and it's jeopardising supplies. Not only are these price increases a broken Labor promise, but they impact so many families, so many businesses, and they fuel inflation by pushing up the price of just about everything. So Labor borrows more money in the budget to provide rebates, to use taxpayers' money to give some taxpayers some relief from the increased prices that are fuelled by Labor's policies. What a merry-go-round. But Labor boasts about this stuff.
Whether it's the caps that we've put on gas and coal, whether it's the energy bill relief or these really important investments in energy efficiency, energy saving, energy storing, renewable energy, this is a crucial part of our efforts in Tuesday night's budget to provide cost of living relief in Middle Australia at the same time as we invest in the future.
The lunacy, hey? But it gets worse because Labor borrows even more money to double down on its net zero policies. More than $100 billion more will be spent by governments and private investors, all of which will have to be repaid by consumers. So it'll all just end up making the electricity crisis worse. When this unravels, it'll be very ugly for everyone. The thing is, though, that so much media coverage of the budget and its aftermath has been so sycophantic, just regurgitating the Albanese Labor government's lines, pretending that life is now all sweetness and light. They're all living in the land of milk and honey. I mean, that's what Labor promised, right? They'd tackle the cost of living and everything would be better. But guess what? It's not. It's all gotten far worse. Well, except for some. At the ABC, for instance, they all sailed through the pandemic, working from home, maximum job security, and they've just, my voice is getting worse too, sorry, the post-COVID voice, apologies, but they also just pocketed an 11% pay rise backdated to last year and complete with a sign-on bonus of $1,500 each. So perhaps ABC staff really do feel like things have never been better. Maybe that's why when the Prime Minister turned up for his big post-budget interview on the national broadcaster, he was confronted with softball questions like these.
Your Treasurer said today that budgets were an opportunity not just to reflect on what's in the budget papers themselves, but also on what's happening all around them. When we look at this budget, what should it tell Australians broadly about where the government is taking the country? A huge turnaround in the budget, apart from anything else, gets the economic management monkey off your political back. And also you've dealt with defence and national security. These were always coalition strengths and seen as Labor weaknesses. What does it mean that you seem to be clear of those now? You have moved into traditional coalition country, if you like, in a political sense. And it really means that Labor has moved into the centre where, while the Liberals are a bit lost. We've got a big change in our political stage going on at the moment, haven't we? To quote Jim Chalmers again, he said today he thinks there's a generosity inherent in the Australian character that says if you're doing it the toughest, you need the most help. And he decried what he called the downward envy of Angus Taylor, complaining the budget helped those on low incomes but not middle Australia. We haven't seen much of that generosity on display in recent years. Are you changing the politics or is the community changing? Prime Minister, thanks for your time on a busy day.
Thanks very much, Laura.
Thanks indeed, hey. How did he survive that one? It's just embarrassing, isn't it? The contrast between that and the treatment that right-of-centre politicians get on the ABC. And Tingle is now on the ABC board. What a closed shop this caper is. The ABC doesn't even pretend anymore. Maybe they believe their own publicity and think Labor will be around forever in government. But all the same, a news poll today showed a lukewarm response to the budget. Most voters don't think it'll do much good for them or the economy. And that's because most voters are not mugs.